Howdy folks, welcome to the patch 8.7 test server with the mighty Jingles. For some bizarre reason, the test server has once again cloned my North American account, so I've got nothing researched and had to do it all again from scratch. Nothing in the garage, just basically all I have is these little things and a RAM too. But doesn't matter, you get 100 million XP and 100 million credits on the test server, so it just takes a little bit of time, and you can go ahead and research absolutely everything anyway. They also give you 20,000 gold, which I have been spending, and we'll see why later. But patch 8.7 is all about, well, two things mainly, and that's the British self-propelled guns, these things. There is also a new premium tier 7 German tank destroyer, still no premium American tank destroyer. There is also a new Russian light tank at tier 6, the MT25, and the T50-2 has been removed from the game. It's no longer there in the tech tree. There's also a new map, which I haven't seen yet, and they've reworked the lighting and some of the terrain on some of the existing maps. So there's not a massive amount really in patch 8.7 other than the British artillery. That's the main new thing. And it's kind of ironic that they didn't put the British artillery in until after patch 8.6, when pretty much everybody agrees artillery got the crap nerfed out of it, so yay for British artillery. You British tank drivers are really looking forward to 8.7. Well, anyway, let's have a look at them. 9 new artillery in the game. Well, actually the Sexton is also, let me just make sure of that. Technically 10 new artillery in the game. If you go to the Brits, there we go, the Sexton 1, right next to the Sexton 2. Sexton 2 is the one you researched. Sexton 1, 1250 gold. Hopefully is actually going to be released this time with patch 8.7. It would kind of make sense. Well, it would have made sense for them to have released it before, so that you could get a head start on training an SPG crew up, but it is what it is. Other new stuff, that Chinese tier 8 premium tank isn't here. There were rumours, although I believe it actually might be coming in 8.8. But people were expecting a premium tier 8 Chinese heavy tank. So far, it's not here, not in patch 8.7. French have got nothing new. The Americans have nothing new. Everybody always says this when I show them the American tech tree on the test server. They go, oh, there's Sherman E4. Oh, the Sherman E4 is available. No, it isn't. The test server is a clone of, it's everybody's server details copied over to a clone of the Russian server, and on the Russian server you can buy the E4, so that's why the E4 is always available on the test server. It doesn't mean we're getting it in patch 8.7. Germany, E25, there it is, 7,000 gold. Is it worth it? We'll see. And Russia has, well, the Soviet Union as that thing, where is it? There, the MT25. And look at the research path to get to that thing. Obviously from the MS1, you have to go through the T26, the T46, then down to the T28, the KV1, up to the KV1S, and then sideways to the MT25. That is the most convoluted research path I think I've ever seen. It's like trying to get to the KV13. You've got to go sideways. The way the old VK3002 DB used to be in the German medium tank line. So you're going to need to be pretty damn dedicated to get to the MT25. But what it also means is the Russians don't have a tier 5 light tank. There we go. SU-122A, Churchill 3, KV-1, Matilda, T-34, SU-85. No light tank. None. Nothing. They've got a tier 4, the T-50, and a tier 6, the MT-25. So we'll be having a look at that, as well as obviously the E25 there, new German tank destroyer, which I have grave reservations about. But first we're going to take a look at the British artillery, which starts down here at tier 2 with this just thing, the Lloyd gun carriage. It has one gun, like it or leave it, that's what you've got. Quick firing 13-pounder. And I'm trying to see. Generally speaking, if you look at a nation's artillery, they all have a certain flavour about them. The excuse me. The Americans, for example, are all about monster splash damage. The Germans tend to be about accuracy and precision. The French, rapid firing, but small splash radius, and so on and so on and so on. And I haven't quite figured out what the British thing is. A lot of their guns only have high explosive ammunition. There's no armour piercing. There's no, it's just HE. That's it. And this is no exception. You get 24 shots of high explosive. That's it. 1.09 metre blast range. Well, it's only tier 2, what do you expect? And I'm not going to waste a lot of time looking at this thing. It's tier 2, it's crap. What do you expect? It's a 76.2mm gun. And a lot of these British tanks, SPGs, just didn't exist. The only two that did are the Sexton II and the Bishop. The rest of them were either blueprints or prototypes only. But that's not new. The Russian tech tree, if you look at the Russian SPGs as well, they're pretty much the same. The vast majority of the Russian SPGs didn't exist because the Russians didn't really do self-propelled guns. They had towed artillery, and a lot of what the Russians would consider self-propelled guns you've actually got here in the tank destroyer line. Things like the Su-152. They had these assault guns that could also work as artillery pieces, but they were already here in the tank destroyer line, so that's why you've basically got lots and lots of fantasy vehicles in a lot of the nations' self-propelled gun lines, because they didn't really do self-propelled guns until well after the Second World War, or they only had a few models that saw service in the Second World War itself, and the British are no exception there. So at tier 3, as mentioned previously, we have the Sexton II. This was a Canadian design, built by the Montreal Locomotive Works, same people that did the Grizzly Sherman, the M4 Grizzly, and this is in fact based on the hull of an M4 Grizzly, unless I'm very much mistaken. Let's see. Yep, there we go, modification of the Grizzly tank with a British 25-pounder field howitzer, which was a good gun. You get a choice of 2 guns on this thing. The previous one, it's a quick-firing 13-pounder. This gets an 18-pounder, which looks like that, or the 25-pounder. And the 25-pounder is just, an all-round better gun. This has armour-piercing ammo. It's one of the few British vehicles that does. And it kind of varies. Yeah, it also has armour-piercing with the 18-pounder. Some of them, you only get armour-piercing with one of the guns available for the tank. Moving up, the Birch gun. This was actually quite a revolutionary design, although it was never used. Let's have a quick look at the details. Yeah, development started in 1923, and this was the first time anybody had actually thought of doing a self-propelled gun. Never used, however, but it was the first stab at getting one done. It comes with choice of 2 guns, exactly the same at tier 4 as the Sexton II at tier 3, the 18-pounder and the 25-pounder. After that, we come to the second British design that actually existed, the Bishop, which is mounted on the hull of a Valentine tank. Only has high explosive ammo on the 4.5-inch howitzer. It gets a 25-pounder howitzer as the stock weapon, which can use armour piercing. And I've obviously mounted on the hull of a Valentine, bloody slow, 24 kilometers per hour. Move up, however, to tier 6. And for me, this is the most interesting thing in the British lineup, the FV304. Look at the size of that. Just to put this into perspective, okay, right, there it is. It's a British tier 6 SPG. So we're talking about, what are its competitors? The GW Panther, which is, it's a big machine. I can't actually remember. I don't know that many artillery off the top of my head. We're looking at the Su-8, big machine. Germans have got the GW Panther. Oh, the Hummel, sorry, the GW Panther's tier 7 now. Yeah, the Hummel's a big machine. The Americans at tier 6 got the M44. The French have the AMX 13F3, which is quite a small machine, I suppose. Chinese don't have any artillery yet. The British get this thing. Let's just compare it to a Mark IV cruiser light tank. Do you see the size? Do you see the size of that thing? Do you want to see it again? Ready? Here it is. It's tiny. It's a little pocket gun. It's absolutely minuscule. And you know what else is special about this thing? It does 72 kilometers per hour. Yeah, hold your breath, folks. I think this could be one of the more interesting artillery pieces in the game, because it is absolutely tiny. It's going to be so stealthy. It only has 280 hit points, but it's a 20-ton machine that does 72.4 kilometers per hour with a 500 horsepower engine. That is ridiculous. This thing is going to be so fast. Guns, 25-pounder field gun, and a 4.5-inch howitzer. The Royal Navy uses 4.5-inch guns on its destroyers and frigates as the main gun. That's wow. That's going to be interesting. Let's have a look at the guns. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's the same gun setup as the Bishop, pretty much. Just you're going to get slightly better stats on this thing than you would on the Bishop. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same. 5 rounds per minute, 57 penetration, 450 average damage. 450 average damage. Ooh, that doesn't seem... That seems pretty... Ugh. 0.7 accuracy, 4.5 second aiming time. That aiming time's really good, though. For artillery, that's not bad at all. Let's just have a quick look at the competition. Let's have a look at the Hummel. Because it just seems like a totally different machine. The 150mm gun on the Hummel aims so much faster. Half the damage, though. Roughly comparable accuracy. Much better rate of fire. So that's what this little thing's about. That 25-pounder field gun and all the 4.5-inch howitzer. Good rate of fire. Good aiming time. And I'm finding aiming time rather than accuracy is the limiting factor with self-propelled guns. That's really, really good. So this thing looks like it's going to be... It's almost French, isn't it? Very un-British. Yeah. I can see a lot of people, a lot of SPG drivers, a lot of you scumbags out there are going to be getting very, very excited about this little thing. But you go from that to Tier 7, and you get this, the Crusader, with a 5.5-inch gun. So, whoa. And this thing is really slow. 14 kilometers per hour. And that's why I'm saying I'm finding it difficult to find the flavour of the British artillery line. Because they're all over the place. You've got lumbering beasts like that, one tier after zippy little monsters like that, and then huge, great big beasts like this. There doesn't seem to be any one particular theme with the British. Tier 7, the Crusader 5.5-inch self-propelled gun. You know, it's really slow. It's horribly exposed, and it's got a 5.5-inch gun. You've got that 4.5-inch howitzer, which we've already looked at. Compare it to the 5.5-inch, and half the rate of fire. Penetration's still lousy. Again, ammunition choice, it's just high explosive. Even the premium ammo for this, some of them don't even have premium ammo. Premium ammo for this is just high explosive again. 4.5 meter explosion range. Penetration is pretty much the same, slightly better penetration. Basically, you're getting just bigger blast radius, but it's still not... Well, I shouldn't complain. 4.5 meters is a pretty good splash damage range. It is a 5.5-inch gun, after all. You know, it's a 139mm gun. Damage is getting there, but the British guns don't seem to do that much damage. But they do seem to have pretty good aiming times. So maybe that's the thing. I don't know. Moving up to Tier 8, the FV207. Again, massive thing. Faster, at least, than the Crusader 5.5. But still slow, 29 kilometers per hour. Guns on this thing, 5.5-inch and a 6-inch gun. There's the 5.5. It's the SU-14, basically, isn't it? Look at it. And there's the 6-inch. And 6-inch guns, these are basically British Royal Navy cruiser guns. You know, the secondary batteries of battleships or the primary batteries of light cruisers. These are big old guns. This thing finally starts to do a respectable bit of damage with 1250 average. Penetration, yeah, you get hit a medium or certain parts of the top armour of heavies with that, 90mm of penetration, that's really going to hurt. It does get armour-piercing ammo as well, though, for credits, with 258mm of penetration. So that's interesting. But the rate of fire is just over 2 shots a minute. But, you know, we're up at tier 8 now. We're going to start getting big artillery pieces. Speaking of which, tier 9, the FE3805. Look at the size of that gun. And this thing, this thing does 40 kilometers per hour. Well, in theory, it's a 52 ton machine with a 750 horsepower engine. So it doesn't appear to be as slow. I mean, that thing, the Crusader 5.5, 14 kilometers per hour, really? Up here, double the size, nearly 3 times the weight, 40 kilometers per hour. And that gun, 7.2 inch howitzer, that is a 182mm gun. Ow. And now we're getting monster damage, 1750 damage. 0.82 accuracy, 7-second aiming time, just over 1.5 rounds per minute. The other gun available is, well, there are 2 other guns available. You've got the 5.5 inch and the 6 inch, but you're going to be wanting that howitzer. And then we come to tier 10, and we get the Conqueror gun carriage. And it doesn't look that impressive. 530 hit points, yeah. 34.3, what's with the 0.3? I don't understand. But 34 kilometers per hour speed limit, yeah, okay. It's a more powerful engine than on the FE3805, so it'll probably actually reach that top speed. Hull armour, 152mm. You could, if you were feeling lucky, in a pinch, use this thing as an assault gun and live. And speaking of the guns, 233mm howitzer. It's a 9.2 inch gun. It does 2,200 average damage. But the accuracy, I hope you're sitting down for this, folks. 1.1. And it fires basically 1 round per minute. Holy cow. That is just such a big gun. Whoa. And again, we're down to only high explosive ammo. The standard ammunition has a 7.76 meter explosion range. Wow. Yeah. How about the premium ammunition, which is also high explosive? 11.1. Suddenly that 1.1 accuracy doesn't seem so important, does it? You know, when you're doing 2,200 damage, even the high explosive ammo has 117mm of penetration. You hit the top of an IS-7 with that, you're going to do 2,200 damage. You're probably going to one-shot kill him. No question about it. That is a monstrously powerful artillery piece. And that, folks, is the British artillery. So I'm thinking that thing there, the FE304, is going to be really popular. And that thing there is also going to be really popular, but for different reasons. So anyway, what else is new? Well, that's pretty much it, really, except for this little thing, the E25. And when I say little thing, I really do mean little thing. It's smaller than the MT25. Let's just put it next to a Tier 2 premium light tank, the T1E6, which was a gift tank that everybody got for Christmas last year. So there's the E25. Here's the T1E6. You ready? It's tiny. What is it with these tiny little tanks in this patch? Well, there it is. It's an interesting machine. Right, it's going to cost you... Oops, wrong button. Was it 7,000 gold? Yep, 7,000 gold. So, what does 7,000 gold get you? Well, it gets you 3 months of premium account, or it gets you one of these things. So, what actually are you getting for your 7,000 gold? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Don't forget, this thing is tier 7, okay? And it strikes me as a tier 7 Hetzer. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely not one of those massive, well-armoured, German tank destroyers, like the Ferdinand, the Jagdtiger 88, and so on and so on. It is very much like a tier 7 Hetzer. The armour is utter garbage. 50mm at the most, and that's only at the front. It's sloped, but it's only 50mm thick, and this thing is tier 7. Sides and rear are only 30. But well sloped, though, so you might get some lucky bounces, but generally speaking, if this thing starts getting shot at, it's going to die. It's a tier 7 tank destroyer, 838 points. Yeah, let's have a look. What are the tier 7? Actually, there is another tier 7 premium tank destroyer around that we can compare it to. There you go, the Su-122-244. It's actually, unbelievably, it's smaller and it's got more health than the Su-122-244, so you can't really complain about that. For something with... Oh, no, it doesn't. It's got 10 less. 830 versus 840. I was thinking this had 850 for some bizarre reason. It doesn't. I wouldn't have been surprised to see this thing only have 800 because it is so small. But anyway, 830. So there you go. Good stuff. It's very small, very light. 26.65 tons with a 700 horsepower engine. It does 65 kilometers per hour. Yeah, that is quick. It is very, very fast. It is very, very sneaky. This thing is going to be it's going to be practically invisible when it stops. It is so small and low profile. You pay, and normally you pay the price for that in a in a low profile machine by having crappy view range. 360 meters is all right. Also, traverse speed 44 degrees. This thing is almost as agile and manoeuvrable as the MT25, and that's a tier 6 light tank. So it's all pretty good so far, despite the crappy armour. This thing shouldn't be getting shot at in the first place because it's so sneaky. Unfortunately, then we come to the gun. It's that 75mm L70 again, but now it's at tier 7. See, the Russian premium tier 7 tank destroyer at least gets the 122mm gun that the Russian tier 7 heavy tanks get. It just gets a much faster rate of fire. This is a tier 5 tank destroyer gun. The Stug has that gun. Why does this still have that gun 2 tiers later? That's the question I'm asking here. So what have they done to that gun to justify putting it on a tier 7 tank destroyer? Well, like the 122mm gun on the Su-122-244 premium tier 7 tank destroyer, this thing fires faster than other tanks with the same gun. How much faster, you ask? 20 rounds per minute. What? Yeah, really. Look at this. 75mm gun, 20 rounds per minute. The DPM on this little thing, 2,700 average damage per minute. That is just ridiculous. That is there are tier 9 and 10 tank destroyers that struggle to do that much DPM. I mean, 2,700 is just absurdly good. Also, look at the accuracy. 0.3. That is wow. And 1.5 second aiming time. The only fly in the ointment is it's that 75mm gun with 150mm of penetration and 135 average damage. But you're going to hit what you shoot at, and you're going to hit it a lot with 20 rounds per minute rate of fire. It's, I don't know. It's a difficult thing to recommend. I can see it being fun and frustrating at the same time. In tier 7 games, this thing is going to kick ass. It's going to struggle in tier 8, and it's got to get premium matchmaking. This thing cannot be effective in the tier 9 game, not with 150mm of penetration. So it's going to be tricky to use well in tier 8 games, but in tier 7 games, this thing is going to kick ass. So I'm probably going to get one, and I'm going to have a go on the test server and see how it plays. Now, the other thing on the test server, the MT25. This thing Had a quick look at it in the tech tree earlier. Very, very strange research route to get to this thing. You've got to go sideways from the KV-1S. It doesn't branch off from any of the existing light tanks. There is no longer a Russian Tier 5 light tank. Instead, you've got this thing at Tier 6, and I'm left asking, why? What's the point? To all intents and purposes, it's a T50-2. It's just got better traverse speed, which was a problem that the T50-2 did kind of suffer from, and then it was very, very, very fast, but it didn't turn very well. And this is very, very, very fast, 72 kilometers per hour, and it turns very well. And it's got the same gun, the 57mm ZIS-4, as the T50-2, and it's Tier 6. Why did they put this in? I don't understand. If you're going to just keep the T50-2 in, give it better traverse speed, and make it Tier 6, because that's what that is. So I don't understand how their minds work at wargaming sometimes. It's just weird. There's nothing wrong with this tank. It's a good little tank. I've played it. It's fun. It's just like driving the T50-2, except better, because it handles better. Why did they need to put it in the game in the first place? Just give the T50-2 better traverse and bingo, call it a Tier 6 light tank, because that's exactly what this thing is. So, there you go. Quick roundup of the changes in patch 8.7. I'll be having a few games and putting those up over the course of the next few days. Stay tuned. More fun to follow. Catch you next time.